Hi, I'm Chris Freeman. I teach AP Environmental Science at Kellam High School in Virginia Beach.
Awesome. Yeah.
Virginia Beach. Nice.
Yeah, not a bad place to be.
I was going to say, yeah, it's a hard knock life, right?
Right, it's tough. Living the dream, living the dream.
Sometimes living the dream.
So tell us about your role there. Tell us, get us a little in depth, a little synopsis
Yeah,
of
so
what you
I've
do.
been teaching for 14 years there, and the most exciting thing I think recently that's happening at our school that I was part of is the design of our new school. So for the last 3 years, we've been in a completely new facilities that my students and the architects at HBA Architectural Firm got to sit down together, work with engineers, and actually landscape architects and design outdoor learning spaces where kids can learn passively just by walking through a space and then actively engage and sort of redesign the idea of what makes classroom a classroom, how do you learn from a building. So that was pretty cool. And then over the summer, had an honor of being getting a presidential award, which was pretty cool for that effort, along with some other things. We have bees at our school. I think we're one of 6 public schools that have bees on premises.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
So always trying to innovate with environmental science on the forefront.
That's really cool.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
first and foremost, congratulations on your
Thanks.
presidential
Pretty
award.
pretty
That's
exciting
pretty
stuff.
freaking
Yeah,
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
really awesome.
very
And that's
cool.
really cool that the kids had such a hands-on experience, designing everything.
You can look at kids as snot-nosed brats, and maybe they are, and that very same snot-nosed brat, you look at them through another lens, and they are, the next president of the United States. They're the next architect. They're the next inventor, artist, and it depends on what lens you choose to view these kids through to give them that opportunity.
Yep.
And it was pretty exciting when I sat down with the architects and said, can we do this? That they embraced the idea of giving these kids an opportunity to show themselves, and also to realize that, by being vested in a community, they bring that innovation when they leave to go to school back into that community to do exciting things. And they're building our school really for their younger brothers and sisters. It's a way to have something very tangible, and often learning isn't tangible. So
Yeah, that's really cool.
Exactly. Well, and it also gives them the experience of going through that process because, most folks, let alone students, don't have a clue what's involved with, designing and building, anything, let alone a school.
Right.
And so to give them the experience of saying, hey, these are the things we have to work out. These are the things that we have to go through. That's awesome.
So the process, was it long process? Was it?
It was, yeah. It was months of intensive work, which was exciting to have architects and engineers sitting down and saying, okay, how can we meet your curriculum standards while still taking part in this?
Yeah.
And being with your students on a very regular basis. When they couldn't be there, how can we set up online communications and keep this momentum going? So it was a pretty neat experience. And also when you think about who a school should be designed for, it should be thinking about the student who's going to be getting that experience.
Yeah.
So why not get their input?
Yeah.
So our hallways aren't actually hallways anymore. Teachers are always sending their kids out into the hallway.
Yeah.
But why do you just have a hallway if a kid has to go and sit on the floor to do work in that hallway space, which I think every teacher is used to at some point in time, putting a kid out there? Why not make it an interactive learning space? So you have couches, you have technology there, so you have projection screens in the hallway. It's a collaborative brainstorming space that it actually is an extension of your classroom. So that's really revolutionized how we teach. And we also broke down some of the barriers. We don't have a science wing, so I'm right across from an English teacher, from a history teacher, from a math teacher. And so that hallway now is a great in-between space where I can have some of the kids leave my classroom and collaborate with other teachers, and that, how does a building design that students take part in and through their input you start to realize, geez, a building can actually facilitate cross-curricular activities.
Yes.
If I'm teaching about the Dust Bowl and the environmental implications, and a history teacher is teaching about the Dust Bowl, and an English teacher is reading the Grapes of Wrath. I mean, geez, we're in separate wings. We never would have known that, but all of a sudden we're right across from each other. And why can't we sync up and do something really innovative with that? So,
exactly.
Logistics is always a key.
Exactly, right?
Always. I think people forget that all the time.
And how do you create a space to allow for that to sort of naturally, organically take place instead of have some top-down, push-down someone's throat collaboration that no one really buys into to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have a building that on a very organic nature creates that, or at least creates the potential for teachers that are feeling comfortable to reach out to do that.
Yeah, cool. So the tech, what tech do you guys incorporate in your new building?
So right now we have approximately 2,100 students in our school, and we're one-to-one with a Chromebook for every student.
Nice.
Cool, yeah.
And that's new this year, so that's a pretty exciting
Take them
thing.
home, keep them
They can
24/7.
take them home, keep them 24/7. They turn them in at the end of the year. They'll get a new one the following year.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when you built this, when you designed this, and were the network guys, involved in this to make sure that the Wi-Fi was in the right place, and when the kids decided to meet outside, maybe in a learning environment or on the couches over here, they can always connect.
They can always connect, yeah. And that's the other interesting thing about thinking about architecture and how it helps a teacher teach. Is thinking about if this building is going to be around 60 plus years, how can the building evolve to meet the ever-changing needs of technology and teaching ideology? And so that shiftability of space is really important, and just creating space that it's sort of understood that that's going to be evolving. Should a building ever be finished? It's kind of an interesting thought, right? Because technology is always evolving.
Right.
Ideas on how to teach are always evolving, and you don't know what are 21st century skills. I have no idea. I really don't.
Making a sandwich. That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll probably always be there. So that might be the one guarantee.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about how do you design a building for the future, and can we set up a building that can evolve with some of those needs of technology that we aren't aware of yet. But yeah, so we didn't fully realize that we were going to have a one-to-one Chromebook when we were designing the space.
Right.
But we did design the building so that it could meet those needs easily. And so with some small modifications, kids can go anywhere and be on Wi-Fi and get the appropriate bandwidth.
That's really awesome.
And so that is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
I've got a question from almost not quite the opposite direction, but from a different spoke of the wheel, if you will. Was there two questions really? One, did teachers also have input in building this building? And two, have there been, and I guess this is a part two, were there teachers who kind of threw up some resistance to this new way of thinking, and have changes come about maybe in their way of thinking or what have you? Basically, how did you bring those teachers into this new way of thinking? So a couple of pieces and parts in there. So
all the teachers had a say in the space, in the design of the building. It was a pretty amazing collaborative experience. And there were certain teachers that had more say than others. They created some committees. We even had a furniture design committee. So we actually had experts come in and talk about what furniture helps you learn. The idea that your body, if it shifts in all directions, can help stimulate blood flow, that can help increase someone's attention span. And some seats don't have backs that have a lot of mobility will be great for 30 minutes, but then because it doesn't have a backrest, students are going to start thinking inwardly about their own back pains that they might be experiencing after that 30 minutes. So making sure if you have certain types of seating in the classroom, your students might need to move around a little bit more. So there was a lot that went into minute detail, and then also on the brainstorming phase on layout, on form and function, on the ideology of what we want a space to be. And so there was site design. How do you want to interact with the actual landscape around the school? How do you want to interact and how do you want a school to be to meet your needs. And so I think a lot of teachers embrace the idea, and I think there's a lot of fear that comes with change.
Sure,
So,
right.
teachers that have been in their cave for 100 years and are amazing at what they do, right?
Right.
They were incredibly scared about leaving that classroom because it's something different. And would they be able to do the same old in that new space? There was a lot more windows that went in because our hallways were a more collaborative learning environment than just a hallway. And so teachers were really worried about, well, is that going to be a distraction if students are walking by and can see in? Are
Right.
students going to be looking out and not paying attention to me?
Right.
So there was a tremendous amount of fear and excitement with moving into that space. And we've been there for 3 years now, so
Yeah.
we've been able to see how it works. And you always get stuff wrong.
Right.
So, there's an elevator placement that people are frustrated with if they have to move. It takes a little while to get to that elevator. But all said and done, everyone seems pretty happy, and people can do enough collaborative work to meet their comfort zone on an organic level. I think more than the building space and environment, the Chromebooks have been more of what has shaken up the teaching ideology at our
I bet.
school.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Then, most teachers gone totally paperless. Our school spent $40,000 on paper last year.
Yeah.
So we now have Chromebooks, and already partway through the year, we've saved $25,000 in paper
amazing.
sales. Now, I don't know if we're making up for that with the $300 Chromebook that each student gets, but still,
Right.
the amount of innovation that you get that comes with that is extraordinary. So
that's awesome.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
It sounds like some great stuff happening, and the kids are probably just over the moon.
They are. I think now some kids are coming in not realizing what they used to have. So they come in
Right.
and they're saying, this is our school, this is our space, this is what everybody has.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
that calibration, they
Yeah.
come in and are introduced to the space, and that's theirs. So that's always funny when you see people reboot and they're already looking for the what's next.
Right.
They
Yes.
have this amazing facilities, and they're like, I have it, I want more, and that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Now we're trying to evolve to meet the needs of the exciting minds of the freshmen that are coming in and already wanting to invent and develop a new idea for the school. So
Really cool.
yeah.
That is so
Sounds
cool.
like you guys have
So
it going
very
on.
cool.
So something we'd like to do here is a 45-second elevator pitch.
Oh, cool.
So you're going to hop on the elevator with your hero, and this is your opportunity to impress them and to tell them who you are and why they need to be your best friend. So, so think about
Things
that a
you're
second.
doing, things you've done.
Things you've done, and boom, you're on the elevator. You got a quick 45-second ride.
Boy, there's so many heroes to choose from when you're on an elevator, and so many who have expired. I think in the world of in environmental studies, Aldo Leopold is one of my all-time heroes. His work with sort of creating and some of the basic components of the environmental movement and also just reshaping systems thinking in environmental studies is pretty amazing. So I would love to share with him what my students are doing with Bee Research, working with a company based out of the UK. We actually have a scale that sends data to satellites, that does temperature probes, humidity probes, weight with the bees there. So we're actively having students take part in research at our school to try and publish and get their ideas out there, to use technology to not just be in our classroom, but also to get out into the field and make genuine change. We've reached out and had a climate summit, climate something that's coming under fire right now, and everyone's wondering what's going to come next. But the reality is that these students at Kellam High School, because Virginia Beach is second to only New Orleans in terms of exposed infrastructure to sea level rise. So these students have worked out 20-year action plans for Virginia Beach to take to be prepared for what sea levels to come by 2100. And they've met with NASA specialists and Virginia Beach city planners to make their voices heard and to say, hey, we understand what systems thinking is, we understand what changes are coming to our space, and we want to not only embrace this change, but we want to be ready to make this area ready to be a tourist attraction, to be a place of innovation, and to thrive into the future. So
that's awesome. See, so here's the thing, everything we just learned in your little elevator pitch, of course we didn't get to cover a lot of that stuff. So I'm just going to throw this out there. Have you considered presenting this? Really, at this point, I think I've counted 3, possibly 4 separate presentations you could do just based on the stuff that you just mentioned. Holy cow.
I've never presented any of this stuff. We're even designing kite aerial photography equipment. So hang student cell phones from kite string that has a self-leveling device attached to it, so they can take aerial photography and then put that into a GIS map to do long-term biodiversity studies for students to look at climate change and how it affects biodiversity. So there's a lot of neat stuff that we're doing, but no, I've never really thought about trying to present that, but maybe that's the next step. Maybe you guys have just...
No, we're going to throw a challenge out to you.
Okay,
We
sure.
do a weekly show every Wednesday at 4 Central Time. We can pre-record it. So pick one topic, let's get in depth about it, and we'll put you on the show and get this thing kicked off.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah,
And I think that would be,
I'd love to do that.
and get the kids involved. We'll do a Zoom or we'll do a Google Hangout or whatever, and we'll get the video going, and we'll get you guys on the show. And that would be a great project to share. Pick one.
Sure.
The bees, I'm a big proponent of everything we can do to fix that problem.
Right. Yeah, colony collapse disorder.
Exactly.
Varroa mites.
I really like my fruits and vegetables. So.
right. 40% of your agriculture depends on it.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, the state of Florida really needs bees. So,
right? How about it?
but yeah, let's we'll throw that challenge out to you.
Sure.
And
Let's make that blossom.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. So, one thing real quick.
Sure.
If other folks that are listening and they're interested in getting in touch with you about, the stuff you have going on, you're on Twitter.
Absolutely.
What's your Twitter handle?
CJ1 Freeman.
Awesome. We will tweet that out to everybody.
Excellent.
I have to tell you, Aldo Leopold would be very impressed.
He is he's one of the big ones there. He's exciting.
That's awesome. Get a picture?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you mind?
Absolutely. I'd love to get a picture too.
Awesome. You can do that. You just sit there and we'll just talk here and then after that we'll do the whole selfie thing if that's
deal.
Cool too. In the meantime, while he's doing the picture, there is a token of our appreciation for
thank
coming
you.
by and visiting with us.
Greatly appreciate it.
And having to be subjected to the hot seat. That's your prize.
This is what I've enjoyed. I'm really interested in learning more about what you guys do as well. So.
Yeah, podcasting this is a great way for students to have a voice. And you could run with what you're doing with your students in your classroom. You could run a podcast every day.
Yeah, well,
and we do live, like this is live, but real podcasting can be done anytime.
Right.
And the amount of kids you get involved, writing jingles, reading reports, doing the newscast, doing the weather forecast, doing the bee forecast,
and that personalization. We're trying to do personalized learning at our school as well, and I think that piece of personalization where a kid can come and put their own spin, and also get that student empowerment. You get a mic in front of a kid, and
absolutely,
they're gonna feel like they own the world.
That's exactly right.
And they're not putting it in front of themselves doing stupid stuff. They're actually doing it for a purpose.
That's technology does a lot of funny things, right? Like I did a lesson. And one of our classes, we actually have a 30-minute break for students to go to lunch, and then they come back and finish off the class. It's sort of an interesting, odd function that happens one class a day at our school. And some kids stayed behind in my class, and they were doing the silliest thing with their phones, doing slow-mo face recordings of basically going, and at first I was like, boy, isn't that silly, right? Watching them do this. And then they're trying to refine their technique, and then they're tweeting out their videos to their friends. And all of a sudden I started to think about that process. They totally developed that on their own. They're analyzing something to an incredibly minute detail.
Yeah.
They're 100% engaged. They're actually getting others involved and
Yeah.
talking about what they're doing. They're basically doing a small scientific study on something that at first you think maybe is irrelevant, but also humor and passion or something
Right.
that are incredibly relevant.
Yes.
And I thought, geez, that might have just topped the lesson that I just taught. You know, that these kids are doing in 15 minutes
Right.
in
Yes.
sitting around doing quote unquote nothing
Right.
in my classroom.
Well,
Yeah.
and there's the interesting thing about branding. You look at that and you think, this is hilarious, but these kids thought it up. They're making these videos.
Right.
And suddenly they get 30,000 followers on Snapchat watching it.
Right.
And the really cool part is though that every 15th post or tweet is about bees. And
Right.
suddenly you've attracted, just give me 50% of those 30,000 people following that channel.
Right.
Who now go, well, these guys were talking about bees. Or these guys were talking about satellite photos. Or these guys were
Right.
talking about this or that. And it just builds off itself. And the next thing you know is you hook them and then you cook them.
Right.
And that's the key. And the more we use that in education and the more we let kids realize that, oh, my voice really matters. I can brand myself. I can do these things
Right.
and have a great time doing it.
Mhm.
Always, and that's our thing. We love to have a good time.
Right.
We like to be a little goofy. Who doesn't?
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
I mean, comedy is comedy, and it's just
Right.
But yeah, it's